welcome to Serving Nerve, the show where we talk about serving, being a server at a restaurant, all those dealios, hosting, bartending, all kinds of stuff. All of the naughty, dirty things that go on in the restaurant industry. Basically, the train wreck that is being employed as a server. Today, we are going to be talking about when you're called in, when you're said that you're needed at work. Are you actually needed at work? That is the true question. And is it worth it? Well, we'll go into that. Like any job, you as a server are going to be scheduled with a bunch of shifts throughout the week. You're also going to have days off, usually, depending on where you work. Now, in this perfect world where you actually are given days off, because depending on your job, depending on how much money you need, maybe you don't have a lot of days off. Maybe you work a double shift every day. You get in for a lunch shift and you leave after the dinner shift. It's all up to what happens to you. I used to work doubles all the way straight through at my first job. One, because I had no money, didn't have a car, and couldn't afford to travel between shifts. And then also, I needed the money. So I would literally try and work all the way through the shift from the beginning of our opening to even like the little middle period where some people would come in for some food at like 3 o'clock. And then I would do the dinner shift. And then I would leave at like midnight or 10, or depending on the establishment, like whenever the heck you get out. Like in general, I would work most days and I would do like 12 plus shifts, 12-hour plus shifts. So it just depends, but usually you're gonna have some off days. Now with these off days, maybe you'll get called in. Maybe your boss is gonna be like, we have this many people coming into the restaurant, we don't have enough staff, we need you. Now, in certain circumstances, you'll actually be needed and you'll make money and all that nice stuff. But most of the time when I've been called in, they don't actually need you. And you're basically treated like a side piece, a pawn. You're more of a pawn than you usually are, because being a server in general makes you a pawn. You're a pawn of an environment, you're incredibly expendable, your wage is negligible, and other people have to pay your wage. And you're constantly gambling in hopes that you'll actually get a wage. It's a disaster, okay? It's an absolute disaster. But it's life. It's like every other job. It's got its ups and it's got its downs. But when it comes to being called in, is your time worth it? Is it worth maybe making money, maybe not making money, and bleeding your life away at work? That's an important question. So it's entirely up to you. Every time I've come and been called into work, I have not been needed as much as has been presented. When people say, oh, we're getting in 200 covers, there's going to be this many tables, it never usually goes according to plan. I've been employed on days like St. Patrick's Day. The first restaurant I worked, I remember being called in for St. Patrick's Day. I served about 2 tables. It was terrible. I wasn't needed at all. I went, I did my shift, and I wasted money. I actually lost money because I had to Uber to and from work. And that's a lot of shifts, by the way. Like, a lot of the time, every time I go into work when a shift actually needs me, it never works out. Or when I say, sorry, I can't do it, which I've started doing recently since having been a server for a while, because it's just not worth it, and I have other things I need to do, I hear, oh my god, it was so amazing, we were so busy, we all made so much money, and then you hate your life even more. So every time you go in, you're screwed, and every time you don't go in, you feel like you're screwed. And you know what? It's like living in hell. I'm not gonna lie. It sucks. I'm pretty negative right now because I've had a really bad week. Financially, work-wise, terrible with work, and also, with my own business endeavors, with my own familial endeavors, life. I really, pardon the ranting and raving, I'm just in a mood. But in general, your time is your money and your money is your time. So how much is your work life worth, and how much is your normal life worth? And it's so easy to fall into this mode where it's like, I just need to work, I need to make money. But you need to take time off for yourself, you need to treat yourself with respect, and you need to respect your time, because your time is finite. There's going to be a point where you're out of time and it's over. And you want to look back on your life thinking, I worked, I made this money, I lived this life, I did this thing. Or do you want to look at your life and, think to yourself, I did all of these things, and I had all of these jobs, or I did all of these other things in my life. I went on these adventures. What do you want to look back on your life as? Because you could literally lose your life tomorrow. If tomorrow you were called into work and it was your last day on earth, Like, would you want to go into work? I personally wouldn't. I want to try, and, I'm trying really hard to appeal to living every day like it's my last day. And, that sounds really stupid, but it's more on the basis of stoicism and stuff, where it's like, all right, you should always use your time. Your time is so finite. It could go any way. You could lose everything in an instant. Do you want to look back on your life as having not done anything? Things like that. You should live every moment to the fullest, and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, your time is so important. You need to respect your time. And if that means taking a day for yourself, for your own business endeavors, for your life, for your career, for your family, for your friends, taking one day off and not being called in, or putting your foot down when you're called in when you know it's your day off, that is one of the most liberating things, even if it hurts you in the beginning. Because to be like a victim of, a people pleaser, which I have always been. I've always been a people pleaser. I've always tried to make everybody happy and do everything all on my own. And, when I've been called into work, go into work. And when people ask me for something, I give it to them. And when, and eventually there's a point where you can't. You literally can't, because you become like diseased in a sense. Like, you become drained. You can't cope. You lose everything. You lose every aspect of yourself because you're too busy trying to please other people. You're living all of their lives instead of your own. It's truly unfortunate, but it's an incredibly common outcome, Like, I used to live my entire life for other people. Like, I had nothing for myself, and I didn't want to be here on Earth with myself because I had nothing. And all I was doing was living vicariously through other people. And now I'm at a point where there's a threshold where you have to value yourself, or there's no point in being anywhere. There's no point in being anything. Like, it's good to please people. It's good to be a good person. It's good to do good things. But there's a point where you need to be good to yourself to be a good person. You need to do good things for yourself to be a good person. You need to balance your life. And the work-life balance, the work and well-being balance, it's something we all struggle with. If you have a job, you struggle with it. There's a point where you think, I have to work. I don't want to work. Or I want to work, but I need to do these other things. What should I do? I can't answer that for you. I can't tell you what you should do. But personally, from having worked a lot and, having put my foot down finally after years and years of working and having other people control my life, like, there is that point where you need to just liberate yourself a little bit, Like, it's not that crazy. I know I'm being dramatic in some senses, but I have to point out, like, you have to have more self-respect. Because if you don't have any self-respect, people just aren't going to respect you. My boss tried to call me into work the other day. And I had a really bad shift on Sunday night. It was the worst shift I think I've ever had. It was probably one of the worst shifts, probably on the top 2 worst shifts I've ever had. And I was, texted, like, I really need you tonight. And I actually gave the shift to somebody else so I could do some other important matters. I literally was like, I can't. I literally can't. I'm on the verge of a breakdown right now. The last shift I had was so bad, I cannot come in. And even if I wanted to come in, I can't because I have other things to do. I'm sorry. And there are times where maybe you don't want to be honest with your boss, but personally, I don't like lying. I don't like saying I have this thing to do when I don't. I just tell people like it is, even if they hate me, even if they, even if they think I'm a loser, even if they think that I don't deserve a good section as a manager, or whatever the case may be. And I already get the worst sections at work at this point. I already get the worst clientele at work, the children, the family tables, the whatever. Like I don't get business parties. I don't get anything like that. At least I haven't gotten it very much out of everybody else. I'm usually given very deprioritized sections, and when I sit around and do this, I don't want to go into work on a day off. I just want to get through my shifts, and then I want to go home and figure out what to do with the rest of my life, because it's not a life to live at work. So in general, the advice I'm trying to give you is please respect your time. It's so important. It's so incredibly important. I don't know. Look up how to be more confident, because honestly, I'm not very confident. I'm confident in being honest, but there are times where, I'm not confident at all. I crumble in the wake of pressure, By all means, Share your experiences if you yourself have any advice for individuals who are struggling with the work-life balance, or, if you find yourself, in a situation where you're struggling with the work-life balance, how do you balance it out? I don't know. But I feel like, that's the video. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, my friends. I will see you when I see you. So, Slater.